Hello folks, I wish to present my thoughts on the Paul McCartney is dead story. This is essentially an American story presented to us British as a news item in the late 1960s, which we laughed at and dismissed. However, the subject remains live despite many theories being proved false and the story originators backing off long ago. The photographic evidence presented by the Paul is Dead team is misleading, so I hope that I can address several key points to better inform you. We are presented with random situations, different head angles and expressions, and we are asked to make a like-for-like comparison and conclude that they are different people, that Paul was replaced by a superior musician in 1966. They use cropped images or poor examples to support their theory of a taller replacement. Please study the next three images dated either side of 1966. Paul's nostrils are slightly asymmetrical, shadow above his eyes suggests contour, his eyelashes are curled and feathered. Paul's right ear contour and alignment. Slightly defocus on the composite image to judge symmetry. Compare Paul's teeth, shape and position. The 1970 image reveals a repaired left front tooth chipped in an accident, the laughter creases and the characteristic heavy eyelids. Again, the composite appears true and symmetrical, allowing for a slight variance in head angle. Reference to Paul's height change in 1966 is easily dismissed by studying full-length photos. Much of the Paul is Dead evidence has already been proved false, example the OPP badge and the date of Paul's death as appeared on the Sgt. Pepper album. I draw attention to the famous Abbey Road bare feet incident. For the photo shoot, Paul was wearing thong sandals too small for his feet, which must have been uncomfortable. Someone might have said to him, "Take them off." This is the car given as evidence of the fatal high-speed car crash on the M1 motorway. Note that the car is situated in a residential tree-lined road with parked cars. Recovery trucks do not dump vehicles in residential roads, especially if there's a fatality. No disrespect to the driver of this vehicle, but it's a fiberglass model and not Paul's Mini. We are asked to believe that Paul died in a car crash on Sunday the 11th of September 1966. This was 2 days before Paul and Ringo's attendance of the Melody Maker Awards event at the GPO Tower in London. Ringo is not exactly inconsolable by the alleged death of his friend. The date of Paul's death was extracted from the clues on the Sgt. Pepper album. Paul is Dead team changed the date to the 9th of November later, despite the UK numerical date order. Some cite the Beatles company name as proof of Paul's death. Apple Corps Limited. This is wrong. CORPS is pronounced corps, a French word meaning military group. It's a play on words, Apple Corps. Paul has a very pleasing coat of arms and motto, "Behold my heart." Paul is Dead teams think the black bird on the helmet is a sign of death. Wrong. It's a cormorant. This is the famous liver bird, the symbol of the city of Liverpool. Liver being the seaweed or lava in its beak. George Martin's coat of arms is more debatable, only showing 3 beetles. Remember, a coat of arms depicts the bearer's life achievements and not others, so the large beetle must be George Martin, and the smaller 2 beetles are not for us to guess. Paul was only knighted once in 1997 and promoted in 2018, but not dubbed by the Queen the second time. Enter character Phil Ackrell. We are asked by the Paul is Dead team to accept that Phil was surgically transformed into Paul prior to 1966. Note Phil's lanky 6'2" frame and big hands. No facial similarities with Paul. Note the height difference between Denny Laine and Phil is 5 inches approximately. Denny and Phil were Diplomat band members in 1962 to 1964. Denny left the band to join the Moody Blues, and their website states Phil became an accountant in 1964. You can review Phil's history on Brainwashed Housewife, tracing Phil to financial advisor to Jasper Carrot. If you compare Denny Laine's height to Paul in Wings band in the 1970s, you can see a slight height difference of 1 inch approximately. Enter character Vivian Stanshall. Now we are asked by the Paul is Dead team to accept that Phil Ackrell and Viv Stanshall are the same person who interchanged his role between Phil, Viv and Paul at will. Viv Stanshall was described by his Bonzo Dog Doodah band member as a 6'2", 15-stone ginger man in 1962. Bonzo Band had a hit in 1968 called Urban Spaceman, which was produced by Paul McCartney. Viv also appeared in the Beatles film Magical Mystery Tour in 1967. Viv made several appearances on British TV up to 1980 and presented small theatre productions around the UK. He suffered alcohol and tranquilizer addiction for most of his adult life, having 2 breakdowns by 1985. He was not physically or mentally a good candidate for a major deception. I've given you a YouTube link to an interesting documentary of Viv Stanshall. He was a very funny and intelligent character and worthy of anyone's time. He died in a fire from smoking in bed on the 5th of March 1995, aged 51. The Paul is Dead team believed that Phil Ackrell and Viv Stanshall were the same man, called William Wallace Shepherd from Scotland, a brilliant musician of no documented origin, no credible photograph images available, but elevated through a Freemason connection to replace Paul McCartney. Billy Shepherd's suggested surgical operations from Phil to Viv to Paul would be Frankensteinish. Are we to believe that the ginger Viv dyed his beard black every day in 1970, given Paul's beard throughout the year? During UK TV interviews post-1967 to 2018, random questions prompting spontaneous early memory recall included intimate domestic details that living witnesses could verify. Are we to believe that Paul's entire memory was downloaded for Billy Shepherd? An Australian video on this subject made a very intelligent remark, and I quote, "The English and the Irish have a very peculiar sense of humour. This sense of humour is called taking the piss." Well done, sir. You're absolutely correct. We are indeed mocking and carefully sarcastic in familiar company. The Beatles were definitely guilty of mockery, fostering the Fall name and backwards subliminal messages. John and George were leaning on their resentment of Paul's superior talent and revenue contribution to the coffers. George Martin alluded to the latter in a BBC radio interview. Sound engineer on Sgt. Pepper album stated the project was Paul's vision and masterpiece. John was unable to communicate his ideas effectively and was limited. Paul was also party to the publicity machine and could have squashed the rumour if he wished. The Paul is Dead team, however, are also mocking us big time. Please read the text in the slide as it features actual statements from John. Is the Pope a Catholic? No, the Pope isn't a Catholic. Well, not since 1958. I don't know if Paul is a Freemason, but this is Freemason whoring. Any project where tons of money can be made, celebrities do the bidding of satanic occultists who promise fame and fortune. Did the Beatles consciously promote human sacrifice of babies and cannibal consumption thereof, or were they following their controller's instructions? There is a paradox to this, as Paul is patron of animal welfare and environmental charities. He's been vegetarian since 1975 and donated songs to good causes. Ethics and do as thou wilt conflict, and I can't reconcile the two ideologies. Please don't waste your time on meaningless distraction stories. Dear Paul McCartney, thank you for bringing sunshine and blue skies to our lives in the 1960s. Young working-class kids were given every opportunity to liberate our imaginations and creativity, to sing and dance to a soundtrack of the Beatles, and many others riding in your slipstream. I was just a child without a penny to my name, but have nothing but joy and happiness carved into my heart and memory for that time. I thank God for your gift. Thank you for raising Linda McCartney to an international stage, so she could share her Earth Mother values and feed us vegetarians. Rest in peace, Linda. Thank you.
Paul, could I have your age, height, and when's the record going to be, please?
21, 5'11".
Soon.
And the next record's going to be out soon, but I don't know when.
Which do you prefer, mods or rockers?
Don't know. I like any of them. Moccas I like. I think they're the best. No real preferences.
John, why did you have to get married?
Because the same reason anybody gets married. You know. Don't want to be slushy like, but you do, don't you? When you want to get married, when you got to go, you got to go. I always say. Hey, what's it got to do with you?